Do I?
I've done this before.
A couple of times.
But we're just going to talk about some key principles here that doesn't matter what level that you play off, how long you've been playing for, what sort of equipment that you're using, that is demonstrated by the best players in the world. And there's certain commonalities that you'll see from player to player to player. And sure, a lot of them might have slightly different styles in the way that they set up. But at the end of the day, there's one thing that that golf ball really only cares about, and that is the contact and impact of that golf club coming as it approaches. Now, how's your short game feeling, Toby?
Yeah, and I think what you're talking about there, right, is like there's rules, if you know what I mean. Like you see things with short game with people and everyone looks a little bit unique, but as what Kerrod's saying there, at the point of delivery, there are certain things that all through our studies that we see that every single of the best players in the world are doing. That you kind of got to follow those things. I kind of witnessed yesterday with someone in a bunker and I saw him setting up in a bunker and I looked at it and I just thought if Tiger Woods was set up like that, he couldn't get it out. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So there's certain things that can give us the best possible chance to use the club properly. You know what I mean? That's what basically our job is to help people how to utilize the club to its capabilities and why it was built. And we see people approaching it in a way that just makes that too hard, if you know what I mean. And you see people say, oh, they make it look so easy. That's because they're using it properly. And it's just some simple strategies around that, I guess, right?
And you see this echoed pretty much through any sport. The old adage, fake it till you make it. If you go down to the surf and let's say there was a car park here and there was a whole bunch of people and you got experts to beginners, simply just standing in the car park and watching people get their board out and the way that they carry it to the surf will tell you what sort of level of surfer that they're at. Same as Toby and me standing on the range.
Not that I don't judge. I don't judge.
Same with Toby and me standing on the range and watching all the amateur golfers hit. We would instantly be able to tell you just through your pre-shot routine and the way that you set up before you even swing the golf club, really at what level that you're going to shoot at. And that's essentially what Tobes is just talking about here, is that within reason, we want to be able to control as many elements as we possibly can before we hit the golf ball. Yeah. Because you've got all the time in the world to do it. Now, that doesn't mean that you spend 10 minutes getting set up, but it is your best chance to put yourself into a position to execute the ball well. So Tobes, just pretending that you're going to hit over towards that sign there, I want you to show us maybe some common faults that a recreational golfer would make when they set up. Let's talk ball position first. Would we see the ball position generally too far back or too far forward?
Too far back.
Too far back. So set up with the ball position back for me. So really what we're talking about here is the location of the ball relative to the stance. Now, the further the ball is back towards Toby's right foot here, that is going to encourage this golf club to come on too much of a descending angle. And short game is all about managing what we call steep versus shallows. Optimal contact with all the best players around the world is having great control over two things, and that is called the bottom and bounce of your golf swing. The bottom, meaning the contact of the turf, at which location, and the bounce was this part of the golf club here. The leading edge, this sharp bit, that produces this result. And certainly something that I'm sure all of us have experienced. And it's a horrible little yippee feel as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and we can, and once again, right, the reason why, so the ball position is further back in our stance, the club is designed for the bottom of the club to land on the ground, right? And you can just imagine if there's a big circle there, right? That club, the back of the club to the bottom of the club hasn't had time to reach the ground before the ball. Now, I understand that you can do that, you know, a few times out of 10, right? But there's going to be the time when you do a poor shot, it's just going to go there, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to mess up here. So he's trying to stop the mess up one, really. I don't want anyone to be the world's best chipper, but I want you to be able to get the ball on the green every time. So you want to talk about ball position?
Yeah, so the reason ball position is very important starting off with any short game shot. We're just talking about a stock pitch here, something that flies, 10, 15 meters, then runs out a little bit. And when you apply these little setup principles, there's really three keys that we're going to talk about today. It just makes short game just so much easier to convert. And ball position has a huge effect because the further the ball is back in your stance, the steeper the angle of the golf club coming into approach. So our aeroplane descended on a certain gradient like this, didn't it? and that's to give it room for error. Now, if your golf club, Tobe, set up with the ball up the back of your stance there for me, is even further, we see it with some players, this golf club needs to come in on such a precise angle to clip that ball. And intuitively, a lot of players do this because they go, oh, it'll make it easier to hit. But if you can imagine that split second that golf club's coming down on that angle, that's tough work, isn't it? Yeah, so having the ball position further forward, essentially what that does is that allows time for the golf club to come through and just brush the ground, okay? We're looking for a bruising of the ground rather than a digging. Tobes, let's hit a couple of pitch shots just to this right pin up here.
Yeah.
And just show the difference in the launch between a backwards ball position and then we'll say a stock ball position for everyone, which is just going to be on the inside of the front foot, okay?
Yeah, and just lastly on that is the club, right, it's built with, it's got 60 degrees on it, and as I was talking before, it's not designed to be used like that, right? It doesn't make sense, right? It's designed to use the whole loft. So you want to return the club, in my opinion, as neutral as possible, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So back foot?
Yeah, so back foot, and regardless if Tobes strikes this well or not, look at the launch, and then that's very hard to stop. And pros, when they're trying to get spin, especially on these short shots, they're not trying to do what the common recreational golfer perceives, and that's like pinch the ball between the club face and the turf. Because what happens is that almost compresses the ball and gets it shooting off with too much speed, as opposed to when you hit one off, let's say, the inside of the front foot on this next one, and just watch the flight and the rollout, so further forward towards the front of the stance. So hit that one to the same pin for me.
Better be better, huh?
So you can see how much higher and softer that land. So that naturally gets spin due to the effect of simply just changing the ball position in that instant. So key number one, when you're playing any short game shot, is to place the ball further forward than back as a general rule of thumb. So as a reference, around the green, you want your heels as wide as the golf club head is long. And then from there, I would like to see every player get their ball position on the instep of their front foot, okay? You can see my toes are flared a little bit here. This is just for balance. So key one, ball position on the inside of the front foot when you've got a stance this wide. Key number two relates directly to that, and that is about the orientation of your body. Tobes, let's talk about the importance when you set up to this, once again facing this direction, of the angle of your upper body. And we're going to talk specifically about where Toby's shirt buttons would be located, okay? So if Toby is tipped behind and we were to let this golf club just hang and you can see where those shirt buttons would drop, what would that encourage, mate?
Well, there's that circle that you know, crazy people like Kerrod and I can see when you guys are swinging the club, but there's a circle that club's swinging on, the plane, and it's the club's going to bottom out there, right? Makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then, but also, I'll elaborate a little bit on that as well. We see this, okay? Right, so not only setting up there, I guess you say, the buttons over the shirt, it's from, in my opinion, the world's best pitchers through my studies, you actually see the head stay in front of the ball nearly as well, because they're that far forward. So the song that I sing in my head is, if I've got, say, 55% forward with weight, I say 55% forward, 55% stay forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm staying there, not trying to back up, because I'm going to move that circle behind the ball. And that's challenging. That's a mental challenge, because common sense wise, you ask anyone down the street how to get that ball in the air, they're going to go like that, right?
Yeah.
We've got to change our instinctive behaviour.
And we got to allow the golf club to do the work rather than try and help it. Now, my friend Jeff Ritter's got a great saying. It's where your nose is, where your nose goes, the bottom of the swing goes, right? So if we're right here, the bottom of the swing is going to be directly underneath it. So it doesn't matter if we start there or finish there. Essentially, the best players in the world, wherever their nose is, at the moment of impact, is generally the bottom of the swing, because our hands clap together in front of our body. If they're over here, unless you're doing this sort of number, which is very unique, occasionally we see that.
Yes.
Generally, the bottom of the swing is going to be there. So that's a great little reference. I won't steal his idea, so we'll use the shirt buttons. Essentially, where your shirt buttons are is where the bottom of the swing is. Hence why in the setup position, we're going to layer these keys on top. Toby, narrow stance, ball position forward.
Yeah.
Key number two, guys, would be all about getting your shirt buttons on top at address and then keeping it there throughout the motion. That doesn't mean we're not turning. but that certainly means that we're just keeping them more on top, okay? So, Tobes, why don't we go to the same hole? The first one, what I want you to do is set with your upper body back behind the golf ball. This is the most common that we see. So Toby's going to essentially add some tilt to his spine, lower body forward, upper body back. Straight away, where do you feel like you're going to hit?
Well, just there.
Great.
Yeah.
So we see two things happen from here. Either the player will completely scuff it behind or top it, or they'll have to, if they're a good player, really drag the handle in this sort of real old school look. So to the best of your ability, try and hit one from there, but you're probably going to have to drag the handle forward, I'd say. Have a little
if
bit
I was
more.
to swing it properly, it's just going to bounce. I'm going to hit the ground first. It's gonna...
Yeah, that's generally going to happen. And we see players do make manipulations from that position, but as a general rule of thumb, if you can get your shirt buttons over the golf ball, that's a great start. Now, the final key is about the motion itself. With these short shots, we find a lot of players are very hesitant to actually have any body movement or pivot. Now, pertaining to an analogy that all of us can associate with is throwing a ball. So let's say I'm going to throw a ball as far as I possibly can over your heads. My body would pivot and rotate back, and it would pivot and rotate through. Where I finish would generally be the direction in which I want the ball to go. Now, in golf, even though we're striking a ball that's stationary and that causes us to focus on the ball, our target is down there. So we need to swing the club through these positions, not trying just to focus and hit a ball, but actually move towards a target and the ball's just getting collected on the way. And to encourage that, we need our body to move. So using that throwing analogy, if I throw a ball as far as I possibly can, my body's going to rotate back and it's going to rotate through. I'm going to finish with my weight on my front foot. That's a big throw. Now, if I want to throw it half that distance, I still need that same body motion. The intent is that I'm not going to throw it as far, my arm doesn't go as fast, but I'm still rotating. I'm not working out an algorithm in my head before I throw it saying, half of that is full, half of this is here, so I only need to rotate X amount of degrees. It doesn't work like that. Even if I was going to simply just lob one over here to Rob, I would still have a bit of movement, a bit of momentum. Just because it's a very short distance doesn't mean to say that I'm going to do that. And that's the way that we see most players approach their chipping. So, Tobes, what I want you to do is just set up to the inside of the golf ball here, have a couple of practice swings, and don't move your chest back and through. So keep it facing down towards the ground and just pull your arms around your body back and through.
Like,
so
it's hard.
Exactly.
That way?
Yeah, yeah. And we see either that one happen, which is going to cause the bottom of the swing to get behind, otherwise this number here. The old chicken wings, arms bunching up, going around the body, and that certainly doesn't induce any confidence there, does it? So when we're looking to get our body pivot, and this is key number 3, so ball position on the inside of the front foot. From there, we're going to focus on getting our shirt buttons on top, and then when you finish your swing, you want to get your belly button, your hands and the golf club pointing in the direction you want the ball to go, relative to the distance, of course. So if you are finishing down here, and your belly button is facing down, the club's around the side, you've lost your grip, well, that means that you just haven't allowed your body to pivot and rotate back and through. So, Tobes, hit one towards the target over here first of all, without using your chest, so get the chicken wing action on the way through.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get you now.
Keep the chest down. That one?
Oh, I did it pretty good, I think.
Did it pretty good?
Yeah.
Did you hear the sound of that though? Did you hear the sound of that though? It sounded kind of clicky, clacky.
That's just my reaction. But you know what? And you know when I was talking about setup before, and in regards to when I see people, I'm like, oh God, they're going to make that so hard for themselves. What Kerrod's saying is ball forward, buttons over the shirt, and if your wrist orientation is okay, all you got to do is turn and turn. Yeah,
exactly. And I'll show you a great little strategy at the end of this once Tobes hit this shot in the cup with a bit of body turn. So look where his chest turned, beautifully through it, high, soft landing. He's a good model. He's a good model.
I had to make it a lot better than the last
Yeah,
time.
you did. That was good. That was.
I'll tell my wife that.
So when you're setting up to any short game shot around there, guys, to kind of tie a little bit of string on this one, it's when we set up to it, as a general reference, you can do this. Club head between your heels, ball position on the instep of the front foot, and you just check that your shirt buttons are on top of the ball, right? Now, in regards to the handle, which Toby was talking about, The easiest way to get into that position is if you just stand up dead straight and you just put the golf club resting on you and you just lean to the left. However much that handle leans is where your hands should also be positioned on the club. If it's over in this direction, you can see the effect that would have on my body. That's going to cause the club to come in steep. Once again, divot. You really want to try and get the feeling that you're bruising the ground where the ball is.
Yeah.
And all things being equal, one of the greatest strategies that you can employ prior to hitting a shot is simply just have a realistic practice swing. Say I want to chip it towards you guys there. I'm going to have a practice swing right next to the golf ball. Imagine there's a golf ball there and I'm looking at where I hit the ground. Am I hitting the ground in the right spot that if I just stepped in, I'd be able to execute that? So having a couple little rehearsals going, okay, striking the ground in the right spot. There's no real big ugly divot or chopping. And I could feel that my body was flowing in momentum towards the target. Well, that almost just gives you the confidence to then go ahead and execute it straight after, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I also think as well, there's an opportunity for you to check your feedback after your shot.
Yeah.
You know, like if you hit a poor shot or a good shot, it's always good to look at the good ones, is am I here and how is the surface area and that ground interaction? Because it's really good to mentally know it, but to physically do it, that's obviously where we're trying to bridge the gap here as well. And the golf ball can play some tricks on us, especially short game stuff. So for me, it's always checking that feedback. That's what we do as coaches. You know, if I see someone like that there, I'll go, why is he doing that? So I just want to repeat that bruising of the ground, and I'm looking at just a piece of grass or a sand, and I'm just trying to emulate what's going to happen. And pretty quickly, I want to go and hit my shot.
Yeah.
I don't want to be too static, so it's here, looking up, just like I hit that last one really quickly, get in, that feels good, let's repeat it. And then if you do a good practice swing, you hit a poor shot, don't give yourself a hard time, you just know, the execution wasn't as good, right? And we've got to try and bridge that gap somehow.
Yeah, and just backing off that, when we are out there actually playing today, guys, short game is absolutely something that Tobes and me can help you a lot with. But just use these keys that we've presented today to help you at least just get a better idea of where you should be set up to give you the best chance of success from there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a bit of time just for a couple of questions about anything regarding short game.
I love short game. I only hit it 220, so anything you need to know about short game, I can tell you.
It's funny you do that considering you're so tall as well.
I know.
So you can ask us at any time when you're out there as well if you've got short game. But anyone got any that they think would be of benefit to the group to ask? Yeah.
I struggle with trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the time I feel the safer shot for me is lofting it. So for example, going to that hole. So I struggle with landing it shorter to roll out versus the majority of the time I just go try to get it with a bit of check and close to the hole, which is not ideal with my pass grip.
To be honest, if you're
It is
really struggling with certain elements of your short game, and you can kind of, no matter what you feel like you do, it's all relative to the amount that you can practice, and no matter what you feel like you're trying to change, you just produce the same flight over and over and over again. At the end of the day, the one variable that needs to change out of what you're doing is the loft.
Sure.
So you can just change club.
Okay.
So
But
it doesn't always have to be as high.
But there is no right or wrong way to play a shot either.
Correct.
You play one within your strengths, and two, studies have shown us, and statistical information, like the whole thing about, for me, like hitting that lob shot to there is so much easier than a bump and run or a chip. Like that's my strength all day.
Yeah.
Because I teach people how to use the club properly, so all of a sudden mine now goes sky high. For me to try and bump and run that, I would be nervous. I'll be more nervous doing a bump and run than flop shot here. Yeah. So you stick to your strengths in that area, definitely.
Yeah, and even though there is a variation of shots, you got the bump and run, the chip and run, the pitch, the lob. Build a good stock shot. Like the best players in the world, from 100 meters out, they're grabbing a club and they're knowing that that's their safe club.
Yeah.
Right. I know that I'm grabbing my 54 from anywhere around the green.
Yeah.
And I could back myself to get it close with that. You don't have to go through the bag all the time and use these all different clubs. Build some confidence with one club. That's usually good enough. Right?
Yeah.
Get it on the green with putt.
Interesting there was always being sort of told that the dip to get the weight on that left foot for the chipping.
Mhm.
You think about getting weight on that foot. You didn't mention that.
Little bit.
You showed us what to do, but that forces the right amount of weight on the left foot.
Yeah.
Correct. I will just make a note.
You walk up and think, I've got to get the weight on the left foot.
Yeah.
You're not getting about everything else, just thinking about getting the weight on the left foot.
The reason that I say, and you'll notice that I layered the ball position first and then the buttons, is because when players get their weight on their front foot, they do this.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they tilt behind. So if you get your buttons on top of the ball,
Straight
you
left.
had to have get your weight forward. But that's a great pickup. That's a great pickup. Any other questions? Usually the question that I get is, how did you get spin? How do you get spin? Because everyone wants to know that.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah, thank you. You need to use a premium golf ball. You need to have clean, dry grooves, so no water on the face at all. Water is the biggest killer of spin there is. And you need good contact. And you do these 3 keys that Tobes and myself have presented today, and that'll help you with that good contact. So go buy a Pro V, go buy a new wedge, keep it clean, use those 3 keys, and you'll be zipping it back like there's no tomorrow.
But there is some delivery patterns as well that do not produce a lot of spin as well.
Yeah,
you know.
correct.
I got some of my friends who are fantastic players who just really struggle to get spin on the ball.
And pros
Slicers
aren't
will
trying to
spin the
get,
ball well.
they're not trying to get backspin,
Yeah.
to be honest. What they're trying to do is they're just trying to produce some sort of consistent result, flight, landing, and spin.
Yeah.
So how much the ball rolls out as such.